good to have you, football fans and Bills fans, on a Friday. The night after recording this on a Thursday night, the first night of week one of college football. Huge
Ugh.
slate there. And then you have 5 straight days of college football: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then and it all ends on Monday, getting you ready for 5 straight days of football, including one day exclusively to college football, 4 days of NFL football. So 10, almost, you got 10 days of football in the next 13 or so days. So get the football watching in. It's back, jam packed. The Bills just released their 53-man roster on Wednesday, including the 16 players that they have reserved on their practice squad. We'll talk about we'll talk about that. We'll also get into a couple of different we'll get into a couple players that Connor is watching this season here in the AFC East.
Spoiler
And
alert, it's not Tyler Bass. I know I have the signed jersey behind me, but it's not Tyler Bass. Just
he has two
throwing
players
that
that
out there right now.
Connor has two players that he says that you have to watch this season. We'll get into that toward the end of the show. But Connor, 5 straight days of college football, suiting up for 5 straight days of football
I'm a
next week.
Florida
How you
State fan.
feel?
Does it look like I care? I'm still disappointed, absolutely devastated, heartbroken. I don't even have words for what I witnessed on Saturday in freaking Dublin. I am very, very upset. I'm still upset. We had all the opportunities in the world to put GT away, and we didn't. We literally let them win that game on a field goal as time expired in regulation. We let Georgia Tech win, and our fan base was so overconfident that we were just going to walk in there and win, and we lost. So let it be a lesson to everybody watching that you don't ever count out an opponent, no matter how easy it looks on paper, because something like that's going to happen, and you're just going to be sitting there in a daze going, "What did I just watch? Did I
Yeah.
really? Did I just watch this?" And then you try to pinch yourself, thinking you're dreaming, but you're not dreaming. You just watched your team lose to a bottom feeder.
Yeah, that Florida State Georgia Tech game.
I'm
You know,
still mad.
when I saw the score, I wasn't around actually watching the game. I was following the game through the score. I was like, at we were like in the middle of the third. I looked at the score. It was middle of the third quarter. I'm like, this game's tight. I'm like, in my brain, like, Florida State should be at least winning by at least two, maybe three scores at most in the third quarter. First quarters against bottom feeders are always tight. They'll try to keep it close, and in the second half, you take it away from them. Florida State never did that, and then the fourth quarter happens, and the rest is history. When you get into the fourth quarter in a tight game against an unranked opponent, upset alert happens. Upsets will happen. It's just college football. Just things that has to happen to Florida State after all they went through last year. But they got
We didn't
Boston
need that
College.
now. We did not need that because now we're the laughing stock of the entire country.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's painful. I don't like it. I don't like it. So
you
we
got
need a
Boston
bounce back
College
week.
on Monday night. So
Yeah,
that should.
Boston College. Boston College, a team that I have watched upset Florida State in the past. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this.
And it's at Doak Campbell, so you at least have the home field advantage that you did not get in Dublin. Even though you still heard the war chant in Dublin, it still wasn't the same atmosphere that you would get at Doak Campbell. I mean, if Florida State was facing Georgia Tech at Doak Campbell, I don't think it's close, but it was a neutral site that allowed Georgia Tech to stay within the game. That's still besides the point of the episode because we have to talk about Joe Andreessen, the Buffalo native, Depew, New York, went to UB University for 1 year after spending 5 seasons at Bryant. So he spent 6 seasons total in college. He's 24 years old. He's older than Dorian Williams
My
as a
God.
rookie. He makes the roster. He was a OTA rookie tryout. He just walked on. He says, "Hey, I'm here. I'm going to try out for you guys." Interested Nugget. He also tried out for the Chiefs. The Bills took Joe Andreessen away from the Chiefs. If he doesn't see if he doesn't see the field this season, just know that the Chiefs could have had Joe Andreessen, but now we have Joe Andreessen. But even though he made the roster, now he has to take the next step is fight to get onto the football field. I guess expectations were high for Joe Andreessen in the preseason, but Connor, you kind of want to temper the expectations a bit, don't we?
hmm It's complicated. So the thing that you have to remember is when a player plays really well in the preseason, that's not indicative of how they're going to play in an actual game time setting with everything on the line and everything counting. Some players will play really well in the preseason. Then when push comes to shove, they will play absolutely horribly. For instance, take Skylar Thompson. Last season, he looked like the next big quarterback. And when he actually did get a chance to start, which was a rather unfortunate opportunity, all things considered, because of Tua's injury in 22, um, he did not really impress that much. And he kind of laid an egg in his first few showings. I'm not saying that Joe Andreessen will lay an egg. I actually really hope for the best in him because look at what we had out of Terrell Bernard. I mean, it was the same exact situation. Well, not entirely, obviously, but you weren't. From what I understand, people weren't really expecting much out of Terrell Bernard,
Mm-hmm.
just to come in and be depth behind Matt Milano. Then Milano went down, and then Bernard comes in and looks like an absolute freak on the football field. And I'm hoping that that can kind of happen with Joe Andreessen if it needs to happen. But expectations just feel like they're awfully high. And I get that the story's great. I love the story just as much as anyone else. As a matter of fact, I would really absolutely love to already have a Joe Andreessen jersey hanging on my wall behind me. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to jump to any kind of, oh my God, this guy's a Hall of Famer hype, even though I really want to. Everybody knows me for that kind of overzealous hype. But, it's just a thing of let's see how he does in a game time setting first before we really start really developing some hype around Andreessen. I love the guy. I hope he is our next best linebacker ever. I actually hope that, as much as I love Matt Milano, I hope he's actually better than Matt Milano. I would love it if he came out there and acted like our own version of TJ Watt, but that might be setting expectations a little too high. But then again, it
We're
is,
trying to temper
yeah,
expectations
I was going
just
to
a
say,
little
it
bit.
is
And You're
me
you're
after
trying to
all. And here I am.
exhalate it now.
hmm I'm saying what
But
I hope for, but
oh
that's
yeah.
not what I'm expecting. I'm just expecting, hopefully he'll have a season to learn, improve his own skills while he watches Bernard and the rest of the linebackers play, like Dorian Williams. And I think that he will be good, but we need to make sure before we really jump on the hype train that he is going to be good when push comes to shove and a actual game is played and he takes a snap there.
Hmm.
And if I remember correctly, he's not listed as one of the first stringers on the 53. Am I right, Paul? I think you actually have it up right
He's not.
now, the 53. I didn't think so.
I don't think he would be behind Matt Milano. We technically would be behind Matt Milano, but
Mhm.
he's actually so Matt Milano isn't, obviously isn't playing, so he's behind, I believe, Dorian Williams on the depth chart. So
Gotcha.
he
That's what I thought.
technically, if you looked at the depth chart, let me see if I could pick it up because it's not popping up. Hold up. So he would behind. He technically would be like if Matt Milano was here, he would be about linebacker 4 on the Bills depth chart,
Okay.
but
Yep.
he would
Yep.
be
Yep.
he's actually third string behind. He's actually the third behind Dorian.
Yeah.
So it goes at
I
will
see it right
goes
now.
Dorian, Ulafasho, and Andreessen.
Yep, I actually just pulled it up myself. So, that means that he probably won't see the field much at all. And that can only be a good thing for him, in my opinion, because if he has to see the field, that would definitely mean that Dorian Williams got hurt and they might use him on a split with Ulofuscio. I don't know how to say his
Hmm.
last name, but I still think that I hope he's going to be great. But at the same time, I just really kind of want to keep our expectations, pretty low just because, undrafted free agents, undrafted players, usually there's been great ones, don't get me wrong, but how many great undrafted players have you ever heard of?
Not many.
Numerous. Exactly. So, I want him to be just as good as everybody's hoping he's going to be, but at the same time, I really just want to make sure that we're all, keeping expectations where they should be and not overhyping a player only for him to take the field, not be as good as expected, and then everybody gets disappointed. So let's not overreact now. That's all I'm saying. I love Andreessen. I hope he's going to be great, but let's not overreact. That
If
was
you're going to project Joe Andreessen, I think he could be a starter for not this season, obviously, but let's say 2 years down the road. With with Matt Milano obviously getting older, so is older, and the fans also have the concerns. I don't think the injury. I'm not too concerned about Matt Milano's injuries impacting his play. I think Matt Milano was on full track being back to wreak havocing Matt Milano this season before he tore his tricep. So I'm
please
not
don't remind
concerned
me.
about a torn tricep backing him up and saying that he's not going to be back to old form. I think he will be back to Matt Milano in 2025 next season when he hits the field again, or even that he's going to hit the field possibly this season. So I would
I
assume
was mhm.
be a slow ramp up into the playoffs, and he should be back in full form for playoffs. But
Okay. So,
I think
actually,
Andreessen
hold
in
on.
2 years
Paul,
could start.
Paul, Paul, you just made me think. So, you know how you were saying about Milano,
Hmm.
possibly not playing this season. The fact is, they put him on IR yesterday, right before, every bit of the cuts had to happen and the 53-man roster was finalized. So they've already put him on IR,
Hmm.
which is highly indicative that they believe he is going to be able to play this season. It'll probably be later in about December-ish, so that's what I would assume if they've put him on IR already. Now, if they didn't put him on IR that quick, then you would have bet your butt that he did not play this season. Even if they made the playoffs and, even got as far as say the AFC Championship game, then I still don't think he would have played. But at
Hmm.
the moment, they put him on IR pretty quickly. I think he will play by December. So we'll be back to more, hopefully, of a full strength defense right when we need to have it. So I just wanted to add in that note because you had said it. So what were you about to say before I just jumped in with you on that one?
Joe Andreessen reminds me a little bit of Christian Benford. The hidden diamond that's just sitting out there. Or you could compare, or the analogy is when you continue scouting your player in college football 25, and the
Oh,
four
jeez.
star, the 5 stars now gets the green gem. Now he's a 6-star recruit, and like that's the guy that you want. This could possibly be Joe Andreessen. Not saying he's probably right now a 3-star guy you on this team, and keep tapping the scout button, and now he gets the green gem, and he's a 4-star guy. And that's where I think Joe Andreessen can get to in
Mhm.
about 2 years. It's starting for it's hopefully it's for the Bills, but maybe in 2 years he's if he's not with the Bills in 2 years, I think he's starting with somebody else because of what he did in college is similar to what Christian Benford did in college. Christian
Oh,
Benford in his last season at Villanova, he had 7 interceptions, he had 39 tackles, and he was just all over the field for Villanova, also setting records and top of leaderboards. That's what was Joe Andreessen in his final season of high school. He had 118 tackles, 18 for loss, and 5.5 sacks in his final season at Lancaster. He brought that to Bryant's. He ranked 8th in FCS for tackles, averaging about 10.5 tackles a game. And in 2023, he led UB with led UBs in tackles for loss. So putting this all together, he has starting linebacker material for the NFL. It's just whether or not he can actually do it in game, and is he going to get the chance to do it?
here's with where he is on the depth chart, it would take a lot to get him to play a actual game. So
Hmm.
let's not go there. I hope he doesn't get the time just because that would require a few more injuries to happen, and I don't really need that. I don't want to think about Dorian Williams getting injured. Not when Matt Milano's already injured, and we've already got, one, two, three, four questionable marks on players prior to week one. Curtis Samuel questionable with the turf toe, but he should be able to play, I believe, from what I had been seeing from others. I think he
He
should
should be
play.
playing special teams. And
Hmm.
that's another reason why I thought, he was labeled as, according to Joe Pasquale, he was labeled as number 53 on the Bills roster. So he was the last chosen person to make the Bills roster on Tuesday.
You
For
mentioned
that
chosen.
reason,
You mentioned
for that
chosen.
reason, he's going to play more special teams than actually. He's going to have to prove himself
Mhm.
through playing special teams
It's kind of
than
funny you
at
mentioned
linebacker.
chosen when I just saw the tweet. The Dolphins actually re-signed Robbie Chosen. He will be wearing number 84 for the Dolphins this season. It's kind of funny, really. But yeah. So Curtis Samuel was questionable. Taron Johnson is still being listed as questionable. I don't remember. I think it was something with his ankle,
Hmm.
but I think they had said that. I think Coach McDermott had said that he was just resting Taron out of an abundance of precaution. They're not actually going to. Uh, I think they said he'll probably be fine for week one. Damar
Hmm.
Hamlin's questionable. I don't know with what.
It's probably his hamstring that he hurt during the.
Our entire free safety room is questionable. Damar Hamlin, Cole Bishop, and Mike Edwards are all questionable, and then Terrell Burgess is on IR. And then
We're
Nicholas
still a week
Morrow,
and a
our
half
slot
away.
corner, is
I don't want to. I don't
questionable.
want to be stressed
And then
about
Balin
injuries right now.
Spector is listed as questionable. What are we doing? But that's not the point. They're listed as questionable, but that it's better than doubtful.
Oh,
But
it's definitely better.
at the end of the day, injuries happen. Next man up. Let's move on. We have more topics to attend to,
We
especially
do.
one at the end that I really need to make sure we're all aware of.
So with the 53-man roster coming out on Tuesday, Bills decided to keep 5 wide receivers. This is not the first time they've kept 5 wide receivers, so there's no need to panic there on
Pretty
a
sure.
decision on why they decided to keep 5 wide receivers. They kept 5 wide receivers last year, and they played pretty well. With the Bills keeping 5 wide receivers, does this help Keon Coleman's impact for the Buffalo Bills this season?
Well, here's what I think. Okay, on the depth chart, Keon is actually listed as wide receiver 2. So, according to the depth chart, we've got Shakir as wide receiver 1, Coleman is wide receiver 2, Curtis Samuel is 3, Matt Collins is 4, and then MVS is 5. So I actually like the idea of Keon Coleman being the 2 on this team and having Shakir be the 1, because at the end of the day, I still do not believe that Khalil Shakir is going to get the massive workload of a wide receiver 1. That's actually going to be on Dalton Kincaid. I actually think Kincaid and Knox are going to get a fair share of targets. I don't think Knox will get more targets over Shakir, but I still think you're going to probably have a scenario where it's Dalton Kincaid getting the most targets, then Khalil Shakir, then maybe Dawson Knox before Keon Coleman. And that would actually benefit Keon a lot because Keon's best abilities are, before everybody crucifies me for saying this, it's catching in the red zone. And yes, everybody's already, fired up about that one pass that supposedly he even said he dropped against Pittsburgh in that preseason game when nobody looks at the fact that that was a hospital ball that was
It
thrown
was.
right his way. And if he let, I mean, now in a real game with everything on the line, two things are going to be different. First of all, you're not going to get that kind of pass from Keon's not going to have to lay out for a hospital ball because it's going to be Josh Allen giving him the ball, not Mitch Trubisky. And then number two, if Josh is a little inaccurate on the pass and he has to lay out for it, he's going to lay out for it. You know,
Absolutely.
there's no excuse for him to lay it all out on the line, during a preseason game because at the end of the day, if he lays out for this ball, he gets absolutely clobbered by the defensive back on the other side. And that could have easily given him a concussion, leaving him out for the first few weeks of the season or even longer because some people get worse concussions than others. So, yeah.
And then at that point, you're basically saying now, the entire thing flips. Is like,
Mhm.
why did Keon Coleman lay out when you
Yep,
already know that
exactly.
he's going to make the roster? So, a one drop inside the red zone during a preseason game where the game doesn't matter, it is not going to hurt Keon Coleman in any way. Do I wish he caught the football? Yeah. And I'm happy that he took accountability in saying, yeah, it was a drop. But it's a preseason drop. It's nothing like, it was, I believe he only had one drop in the entire preseason
Mhm.
and out of all of his targets. So he either caught the targets that he was given, or the ball was either just way offline, or he just dropped that one. So I think five wide receivers with the two tight ends that the Bills have helps Keon Coleman as a pass catcher for the Bills this season. I think it will gives him more chances to catch the football, but it also gives him an opportunity to be more like Keon. He doesn't have to fight for targets or fight for the fight to get open because he knows that he can get open and separate well. And then if he's open, he's going to get the football because it's going to be Coleman, Samuel, Shakir, Kincaid probably on the field at least 85-90% of the time. That's what I would think the formation looks like for the Buffalo Bills. Add in 12 personnel, mix and match with Kincaid and Knox. So I would expect
Wait,
five
wait.
wide receivers helps Keon Coleman in plenty of
Paul, hold
areas.
on, hold on, hold on. I just saw this tweet about Brandon Ayuk that I need to tell everybody about right now. So, in case you haven't noticed, the 49ers extended Brandon Ayuk. They did not trade him to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is no longer going to the Super Bowl, per sources. But I just saw this tweet from Diana Rossini, and I really want to get this out there. The
Mhm.
49ers were only willing to trade Brandon Ayuk if they could get a top flight wide receiver to replace him. They offered a third round pick to Denver for Cortland Sutton and then would have dealt Ayuk to the Steelers, but the Broncos declined, and that is why he's staying in San Francisco. Point blank, that is direct from the source.
Basically was basically a one for one with
It was a
for
one for
Ayuk,
one
you
with
know.
it was a one for one, exactly. And the fact that Denver declined is why the extension happened in the first place. So I just wanted to get that out there before we continued because that's actually kind of interesting to know that they would have done a three-team trade, kind of like how those are facilitated in the NBA. So that way the 49ers still got their top flight receiver, but Pittsburgh got who they wanted, and the Niners would get, the Niners would get who they wanted, Steelers would get who they wanted, and the Broncos would get that nice draft pick. So that's interesting to hear. But
Oh, it's a 3-team trade.
yeah, Paul, are you listening to what I just said? But yeah, it would have been from what it appears, it would have been a three-team trade because they offered a third round pick to Denver for Cortland Sutton and then would have dealt Ayuk to the Steelers. So it seems like they would have traded the third round pick, or Denver would have traded the third round pick, uh, Cortland Sutton, and a third. You know what I mean. My
Mhm.
brain is all over the place right now. Denver would have given Cortland Sutton to San Fran. San Fran would have given them a third. And then the minute Cortland Sutton gets in, they would have used whatever means they had to trade Ayuk to the Steelers. So that's how it would have gone. So it wouldn't have been a three-team trade. It would have been the Denver dealing with San Fran first, then San Fran dealing with Pittsburgh. So there you have it. That's
Wow.
amazing. But
NFL trades can get complicated like that,
yeah, and then
especially
and they're
especially
nothing.
for a top flight wide receiver like
Yeah,
Brandon Ayuk.
and they're nothing compared to the NBA trades. Let's just be completely honest. Those can get stupid. But
NBA trades. Let's trade our 2020 or
str-
2020 2030 second
mhm,
round pick, including a 2035 pick
mhm.
as well for this player.
Yep, literally though. But um that's I just wanted to get that out there. While we're still on the subject of Keon Coleman and how he would look as the wide receiver too, I want to go back and point out that as an FSU fan, I know well how he should be used, and the way FSU used him was not a very good way for us to use him. We really did misuse him. If you want to see how he was really supposed to be used, go look at his Michigan State tape. I believe it was Michigan State.
Yeah.
Um,
He went to Michigan State. He played basketball for Tom Izzo as well, and then he
mhm.
transferred to Florida State. And I mean, he was good at Florida State. He was a if you go to what he did everything for Michigan State. You know, he was inside, he was outside. He also he wasn't just like a solely red zone threat. You know, with Florida State, he was just the field extender. He was their deep threat guy. He also several times caught some wide receiver screens. So if you look at what the versatility that Keon brings, he brings the ability to take a wide receiver screen from a short -2 yard pass to a 15-yard gain. He brings great hand. Oh my goodness, I can't speak. He
Hand,
brings great
Paul.
he brings great catchability inside
Mhm.
the red zone,
That's the
and
point.
then he's just a great outside threat. He
Mhm.
just brings three really important pieces to the game, and he's just a really good wide receiver that I think, at first he's going to struggle just a little bit. It's going to take him a few games to settle into full NFL mode, the pace of
As
the
it
NFL.
mhm.
It's going to
As it
take him
does
a few
for
games.
literally every rookie.
But I would
Yes,
say
as it does
about
for
week
literally every single rookie.
right around week 5, that's where I start seeing Keon Coleman start going up, and then maybe right around week 9, we're gonna see peak Keon Coleman, and that's where you're gonna start seeing the more acrobatic red zone catches. Inside the red zone, he's going to be toe tapping. You're just going to see Keon Coleman in full flight. He's going to feel uncomfortable at first. It's not going to be the same Keon Coleman just jumping up randomly in a practice, just catching a one-handed football. That's going to wait to the second half of the season to where he's comfortable. He knows the pace. Him and Josh Allen have a better connection in for regular season football. And then it's just going to be Josh Allen to Keon, I would say, more times than not.
Mhm. So exactly that. So they have to build the chemistry together. Kind of like how Josh Allen did with Dalton Kincaid this past season. Like you really didn't see Dalton Kincaid get much work until like midway through the regular season. If I remember correctly, his first touchdown was against it was
Tampa Bay.
way Tampa Bay. Yeah, that was pretty
Tampa
late
Bay.
in the season too, right?
Yeah.
Like week
That was
what?
about mid-season.
Yep. So I kind of feel like Keon's going to be in that same boat. So I feel like what's really going to happen is that Josh is going to use Kincaid, probably Knox a little bit, quite a bit in the passing game, probably Shakir, uh, Curtis Samuel, as long as the turf toe's good, which by the way, I'm really, really, really excited about Curtis Samuel coming to the Bills because you know why? Have you
Mhm.
seen the tier of quarterback that Curtis Samuel has played with throughout his entire career?
Yeah, it's a long list. It's I believe was several quarterbacks with Washington, and then he played with several quarterbacks in Carolina. I mean,
Mhm,
the list is probably 10 plus different quarterbacks because both organizations just went through quarterbacks like it was a wildfire because they
mhm.
just couldn't keep one. So,
So listen, listen, listen. 2017 Carolina Panthers, right? So
mhm,
still a pretty decent Cam Newton. 2018 Carolina Panthers, a really good Cam Newton all the way up until TJ Watt destroyed his entire life, literally. 2019, yeah, that's when it starts going south. 2021, he goes to Washington, and I think the 2021 Commanders, their starting quarterback. Okay, so they went 7-10 that year. I forget who the starting quarterback was. Oh no, that was Taylor Heineke. That was when they went through Taylor Heineke, Ryan
yeah,
Fitzpatrick, Garrett Gilbert, and Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen.
And yeah, and then last year, obviously, that Commanders team went 4-13, even with Curtis Samuel and their quarterback, Sam Howell, Jacoby Brissett. So, I mean, you look at all those quarterbacks, and then you all of a sudden see that he's got Josh Allen. You're about to unlock this man's full potential. And I am so excited about that. So excited. This is going to be the best Curtis Samuel I think we have ever seen. And
We're
that's
gonna
on
see
top of,
peak Curtis Samuel. I think we're gonna see a different Curtis Samuel this
you
season,
know
and I
what?
think
If I'm putting this out into the universe, I'm just going to say this too. You know what else we're going to see? We're not going to see just peak Curtis Samuel. You know what else we're going to see? We're going to see peak MVS. Yes, MVS played with Patrick Mahomes. I do not care. We are going to see a better MVS this season. You can come at me at the Florida Man 17 if I'm wrong later in the season. Make sure this is clipped, Paul, and put on every social media. That way people can come at me whenever if I'm wrong. So put that
I
down.
hope you're not wrong because he's currently wide receiver number 5 on this roster, and
Mhm,
if things do go wrong, and, with NVS and he's just not the same wide receiver as he was, then there's an issue, you know? You only got 5 wide receivers and you only get a certain amount of practice squad designations. I mean, they could also do the same thing that they did with Ty Johnson last year and just sign him to their active roster and just release somebody. If NVS does go south mid-season, and that's where I expect NVS to play.
mhm,
He's on a thin line, MVS, and if things don't go right for him, I would say right around week 7, week 8, maybe extend it to week 10. It's like, your last effort to show us something, then that's where you go, okay, you release them and you bring up KJ Hamler or even Tyrell Shavers off your
Woo,
practice
Shavers.
squad. And then there you are. I think
Hey,
Hamler brings a different aspect to
he
this
does.
Bills wide receiver group than NVS. That's
Well,
you,
duh.
you
Everybody
we
has a
talked
different skill set.
we talked about NVS that he had to make the roster because he carries the guaranteed money. So you
Yeah, I
give
had
the
been saying that
guaranteed
for months.
money to midseason, and if he's not doing anything with it, well then release him and bring KJ Hamler in because I would prefer KJ Hamler over NVS.
Would you, Paul? Would you really? Like, really? I mean, I just want I'm trying to make sure that I'm really getting this out of you. Really? Would you?
Yes.
Okay, then tell me
Look,
why.
look at the Bills widers. Read you off the Bills wide receivers that they have on their roster. Tell me, I'm just going to do this. Samuel Coleman, NVS, Shakir, Hollins. They're all one. They're most four of the five are bigger wide receivers. Curtis Samuel is probably your gadget guy slash slot
Duh.
guy slash
Yes.
speed guy, but he doesn't bring true speed. KJ Hamler brings true speed to the Bills' offensive weapons, something the Bills really don't have inside the wide receiver room. And I know Bean really wasn't looking for speed as it turned out to be. He said, he wanted to add speed during combine talks, but ended up being him drafting Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's biggest weakness is his speed, but what he does outside of his speed makes him a better weapon, and it kind of degrades his speed a bit. It kind of makes you forget about that he isn't that fast. So you bring KJ Hamler in, it just brings a different speed element to the Bills roster that just if makes because MVS can do the same thing as Shakir. MVS can do the same things as Keon Coleman, which is both stretch the football field and play outside.
Mhm. Uh, I was just I figured I'd let you finish before I noted this because college football is currently on right now, but, Shedeur Sanders just threw a 70-yard touchdown to Jimmy Horn. I
Yeah, I've
am
seen it.
now watching that play and going, "I hate my life right now because DJ Uga whatever is my quarterback, and he couldn't do this,
TJU.
and I hate this. He couldn't do that. He didn't do that.
They're playing North Dakota State.
We were
What?
playing Georgia Tech. What's the point?" But before I get
One's
any
an
more
FCS
upset
school,
about
one's actually a somewhat decent FBS school.
yeah, well, before I get any madder about college football, let's move on. We've got another topic to get to.
Yes, you do. You need to tell me two players you're watching out for this season, and apparently they're both on the same team,
Mhm,
spewing the same propaganda as you were
mhm.
last year.
It wasn't me spewing the propaganda, it was them.
I was
Okay,
just talking about
so
the old fan base you were a part of. You're
yeah,
spewing their propaganda again.
don't remind me of that. Even then, I wasn't spewing that kind of propaganda. Are you out of your mind, sir? But anyway, what he's trying to say is now with some much needed for them at least coaching staff changes to the Miami Dolphins, especially on defense with Vic Fangio leaving and Anthony Weaver coming in. You should see Cam Smith, the quarterback they drafted last year, get some more playing time. And from what I'm hearing from everybody down south, is he actually, up until his injury, looked pretty nice. So I know that people are like, "Oh, they wasted a draft pick." Yeah, it's because Vic Fangio doesn't play rookies. He never
Mhm.
has. And that's why Cam Smith didn't see the playing field at all last season, even when he could have been used over a guy like, Eli Apple. So you have him. And then you have Eric Azukanma. Everybody in Miami calls him Easy E. Just another wide receiver on their depth chart that is an absolute wild freak of nature almost. As a matter of fact, let me pull up, if I can type properly, the Miami Dolphins' current 53-man roster right now.
They
He
only have
should
4
still.
wide receivers.
That's the amazing thing too. He should. I think they've stashed Easy E for right now just because he's hurt. Which complete to be completely honest, most of the players on that team right now are hurt, which is really unfortunate. But yeah, hang on. Where? Hold on. Okay. Yeah, so he actually didn't survive the roster cut, but he'll probably be brought back on the practice squad. It was funny because when I wrote the original topic, I had it written when he looked really good in the preseason, and then he had a really bad showing in the last game, if I remember right. And once that happened, I'm pretty sure he was also injured. So that kind of threw everything out of whack. And then all of a sudden, he didn't survive the final 53 cut. So when I wrote the initial topic out, it was like, yeah, he looks pretty good. We're going to have to watch out for this guy. Oh, wait, he got injured. And then the Dolphins, for whatever reason, have decided to go with a very small amount of wide receivers. Realistically, what's funny to me, they went with four. They went, uh, obviously, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Braxton Berrios, and Malik Washington, the guy they drafted this year. I find it funny they went with Braxton Berrios because Braxton Berrios is mainly your special teams kick returner, punt returner, and the only real point in offense that you're going to put him at is at slot. So if Braxton is your first target, because heaven knows he will be at some point with how the Dolphins only use wide receivers and running backs in pass plays and they don't use tight ends, even though you just signed Jonnu Smith and he made the 53-man roster. Oh, and you're carrying, I think, 5 tight ends on your 53-man roster too, which is hilarious considering that none of them, I promise, are going to actually put up, any kind of passing numbers. I actually probably think it's going to be something like what we saw last season, where not a single Miami Dolphins tight end gets a touchdown, period. And yet they've rostered more of them than they've rostered wide receivers. I just think about that, Paul. Think about it for 1 minute, right? They have literally put out 5 tight ends on their 53-man roster.
Ooh,
5.
that's a lot.
And I think Durham Smythe is still tight end 1. Durham Smythe, then Jonnu Smith.
Are they trying to go 4 wide? I mean,
Mhm.
that's the only thing they can really do. I mean, unless they're gonna go 2 wide with 3 tight ends. I mean, how
You can,
often can you
and
see a
even
3
then,
tight end set?
and even then, they wouldn't throw to either one of them, just because that really isn't what they want to do. That's not Mike McDaniel's game plan. It never has been.
But tell me why
Even
Uzama is a player to watch this season.
hmm?
Tell me why Uzama you picked Uzama, as a player to watch.
Well, he was buried on the depth chart first and foremost. And when you have an offense with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, Braxton Berrios, that was going to happen. He was a rookie. He didn't really get to see the field that much, even though he had nice flashes in the preseason, both last year and this year. But now with them not really carrying that many receivers, I'm kind of surprised. But from what I understand, he did get hurt. So the fact that Ezukanma got hurt is most likely why he's not on their 53-man roster right now. That's why he's on the practice squad. So when he does heal up, if he gets elevated onto the actual 53-man roster, like I think he will be, like I do genuinely think he will be,
Mhm.
uh, it's just another speed freak. So you really just have to make sure that you're covering all angles on the field. But the real issue, with the Dolphins, right? is that you
Right.
have to ensure that you cover not only the speed freaks, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but you also have to put a box. Like you have to make sure that you put enough pressure on Tua that he has to get the ball out to his first read quickly. And you have to ensure that you can stop the run because the minute that Hill and Waddle get kind of locked up, that's when they start handing the ball off more to Mostert and a Chan. But that's usually only with how Mike McDaniel calls games. In the beginning, when they're just trying to get some points. Toward the end of the game, yeah, they kind of stopped using him. For all of our sakes, I hope that Mike McDaniel did not learn from his mistakes and that he continues to do the same exact thing that we saw last season if they get behind, trying to force the ball to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But what I'm thinking though is in particular Cam Smith, he should be I don't remember what the injury designation was, but I'm pretty sure that once he gets on the 53-man roster, he is going to ball out. So, it's just another guy that you kind of have to look out for. You have to account for in your offensive game plan, but at the end of the day, it's still us. We're just
Mhm.
gonna throw Kincaid down the field, and he's just gonna destroy people. So,
Man,
it's 2 players
perfect.
to watch barring, their
Injuries.
their, if they can come back and play, at their full potential from injury. So, that was the last topic I really had. That
Alright,
was the last thing
let's do
that I
this.
wanted to kinda say, at least with this.
Last thing before we wrap up tonight, that was covered all of our topics for tonight. But let's do our first edition of Pick Six this season,
Oh
where
god.
we're predict. This is preseason for us. We're going to predict six college games. You know the winners of each, and that's it. Just like last year. I forget who the reigning champion was last year.
Either you
I have
or Paul, or either
I
you or Ben, I
it
forget
it
who.
was either me and Ben. We were going head to head last season. I had a couple surprise winners as well with a couple surprise upsets that included Arizona over Dallas. I still remember that. It was a gut feeling I went for it and always trust your gut. Always trust your gut. That's what we're doing here tonight. Let's do tomorrow's game. TCU Stanford. TCU has to go on the road to Stanford for their first game in the ACC.
Oh, we're doing college. Oh, okay.
Yes,
Uh,
it's
you're
preseason for us.
I know, but you're still getting me. You're still hitting me where it hurts, Paul. I
Sorry,
mean,
I have
why do you
to.
have to keep hitting me where it hurts?
We're doing NFL next week. You know,
I
next
know,
Wednesday,
I
next
know,
week.
but still, you got to keep hitting me where it hurts, don't you? Come on now. Anyway, as he was saying, neither of them are ranked, are they? I
Nope.
don't think TCU or Stanford are ranked this season, right now at
Mm-mm.
least.
Nope, not yet.
That's an interesting one. I
It
think,
is.
I think, hmm, I'm
I
just
can
gonna
give you
go
mine.
ahead. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I think TCU is gonna win.
Okay,
All they
I'm
have to
going
do.
Stanford.
Oh, you're going Stanford. All righty. Well, we'll roll with this.
I'm
So,
taking Stanford because TCU has to go on the road to Stanford. You know, the travel
mhm,
that comes with it. You know, it's the first game for Stanford in the ACC, so you know, Stanford needs to become relevant in football again to be in the ACC, which surprised me why they're in the ACC. They've been so irrelevant in college football for a while since base. I mean, they had Christian McCaffrey. Minute Christian McCaffrey stepped off the field at Stanford, they just became irrelevant. All right,
yep,
next game, ranked game Saturday at noon. Clemson, Georgia in Atlanta.
Georgia. I'm not even thinking twice.
Yeah, that could get out of hand for Clemson if they're not careful. Georgia.
I desperately need it to, just because now with
Yeah, with yeah.
our sudden loss, if Clemson were to upset Georgia, immediately Clemson goes to the top of the ACC favorite list, and it basically screws Florida State over. So I need Georgia to please don't choke this game like you choked to Alabama, but move on from that one, because I'm still I'm irked
First
now, Paul.
S the first ever SEC 3:30 window on ABC in the new era of the SEC, Florida and Miami. Who wins?
Oh God. Hitler versus Stalin in prime time, huh?
It's 3:30.
Well, I'm gonna have to chomp chomp for the Gators in that one. I don't think they're gonna win, but I hope they do. I really hope they do. Just to knock
You
Miami
need it
down
for the
another peg.
ACC stakes.
That
I'm
too.
going against you. I'm taking Miami. You
Why
know,
would you do this?
Mario Cristobal has to make Miami relevant again in college football, and
You mean the
no
same guy that
better
took a
way to
knee?
do it against in-state Florida rival against Florida at home at the U 3:30, the first SEC window for ABC, and just upset the SEC team. Why not? It makes perfect parody for college football. In the
Yeah.
nightcap on ABC, this is an elite ABC, uh, slate. You go Clemson, Georgia, Florida, Miami, right into Notre Dame, Texas A&M.
Hmm. All right. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're talking about. Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I really want to say Notre Dame. Notre Dame's ranked 7th. They have
Mhm.
a pretty stout team. I think I'll just go ahead and say Notre Dame.
Massive upsets on the primetime slate. Let's go. That's what we
Well, Notre
want.
Dame's supposed to be ranked 7th from what I understand, and Texas A&M's 20th. So how would
I
it be
guess
an
it
upset?
wouldn't be an upset. Okay, maybe I overhyped that. It
I
wouldn't
think you did.
technically be a it
Come on,
wouldn't be
Paul.
like yeah, it's not an upset, but, like, in my it going on the road to Texas A&M is a hard thing to do. You know, Miami went to Texas A&M, I believe, last year, and you would thought Miami was supposed to win that game, even though Texas A&M wasn't having a good season, and Texas A&M, I believe Texas A&M stomped Miami, if I'm not mistaken, but I could also be wrong because I remember the game, but I also don't remember the game. But I'm going to take A&M. I think
All right.
A&M gets the home upset in this game. You know, they're home. It's week one. They're back in the SEC. They got to make a statement somehow.
Yeah.
Ranked game Sunday night. USC and LSU in Vegas.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I'm still going LSU. I kind of hate to, but I will.
LSU is probably the better team. USC needs this just to make Paul Feinbaum go quiet with Lincoln
Haha.
Riley, but they're not going to. I think LSU wins this game. They're probably going to win this game comfortably on Sunday night. We got to end it this way.
Wait a minute.
Monday night,
Wait a minute.
prime time, Doak Campbell, war chant going, big week 1 game for the Seminoles at home against Boston College. Who wins?
I really I really want to say I want to say it. I want to. I just don't know how much confidence I really have in DJ right now. It's just kind of really unfortunate to see what happened last week, or yeah, last week. Ugh. I'm just gonna still say Florida State wins, and the war chant's gonna be wild, but I wouldn't be surprised if we also lost. I'm gonna go finalize it though with Florida State.
Do
So
you want to give a score prediction? Kind of like
no,
just for the heck of it?
no, because it could go
No?
either way. I feel like that game is either gonna be won or lost by 3 points, just like it was
There
with
you go.
Tech. But You're
I
forgetting
got
one,
Florida
Paul.
State too. I
Okay,
got
thank you.
Florida State too. I think, they're going to rewrite the wrongs from last week. They're at home. It's prime time in Doak Campbell. There's no better place to be in prime time in college football at Doak Campbell.
Where else
War
would you
chants
rather be?
going. The Seminoles going at the
Right here, right now.
staking his torch at center field. Florida State, and I'm going to say Florida State comfortably. I think Florida
I
State
hope
wins
you're
by
right.
3 scores.
I
I
hope
think
you're right.
they win by 3 scores on Monday night, the way they were supposed to win in Dublin by a few scores. I think they win comfortably.
I
You
hope you're
know, it
right.
might it might start shaky. Boston College might give them a fight, but Florida State, if Florida State's going to do anything this year, they're going to have to start pulling away from opponents, and it has to start somehow. It has to start early in the season. You
Mhm.
got to do it against Boston College because you couldn't do it against Georgia Tech.
Don't remind
Do it
us.
this week. Re Re-put the confidence inside the FSU fans
Mhm.
for
We
the
need it.
rest of the season. Because if you beat BC by 3,
That'd be nice.
you can't beat BC by 3. You just can't.
Well, that'd be really, really nice. But actually, let's end it with a bonus pill. Let's end it with a bonus round, Paul. I'm gonna
All
give
right,
you
bonus
one.
round. Let's go.
I'm gonna give you one.
Oh, give me just one. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you one. 3:30 p.m. ESPN. Kind of a very mid game, but still, I think you might like this one. Colorado State versus the fourth ranked Texas Longhorns. Who do you got?
Okay. Oh, it's Texas. Texas by a mile.
Yeah, you want to know what the line looks like?
What's the line?
Texas minus 32.
Yeah,
32.
they're gonna cover that with ease.
I know. Hook 'em.
That probably be covered in the first half.
I know. I just had to give a hook 'em out here. We have some hook 'em
I
fans that
hope I
watch
didn't
this
jinx them
show.
too, but they're
I hope
gonna.
you did. I'm kidding.
I hope I didn't, but they're gonna. They should spank Colorado State. The game should be over at halftime.
You would hope, but
It
crazier
should
things
be.
have happened in college football.
It's college
But
football, but the parody of an upset would be nice.
that would be
Like
hilarious. But
it
at the
would
end of
be
the day, I
nice,
don't want to see it. I really don't want to see
but
it.
I don't.
Neither
That's
of us
enough
do.
today that I don't want to see.
Yep,
But
same.
if it happens,
So be it.
give them their props. They did it. They went to Texas and beat a top 5 team in college football.
Arch Manning,
Any
you
other
will be a
things to
Seminole soon.
Any other final topics?
Um,
We did run a little late, but that's right. It decided to throw in picks at the end.
I don't really have anything else to say other than yeah, I really don't have anything else to say.
Well, that's it. That's it for this edition for Connor Stakes. There should be one next week. I sadly won't be here for the next edition for Connor Stakes, but we will try to find some fills so we can get it going again on a weekly basis, 2 shows a week for the rest of the NFL season. Because who doesn't like more NFL content on a regular
Exactly.
basis?
Yeah.
Talking NFL, talking college, because that's what we can do on Connor Stakes is talk anything football relevant, including Buffalo Bills football. Tune
Especially
in on
Buffalo
Monday.
Bills football.
Who doesn't like Buffalo Bills football? Tune in on Monday for the next edition of the Undercovers podcast. You see me, Connor, and Ben should be back, and we're hoping to have a guest, and a pretty big guest on Monday to preview the Bills season on that's happening next Sunday. Next Sunday, 1 o'clock at Highmark Stadium. Tune in for that. Then they
Against a
go on
team
the
we can't
road.
sleep against.
Can't.
Do not sleep on the Arizona Cardinals. Do not
Mm,
do it.
they should. The Bills need to handle their business week 1. But follow us on our social media platforms. Undercovers at Undercovers Cast is most of our ads on every social media platform. Follow Connor on his Twitter. Follow me at my Twitter. Mine's right there. Follow Ben on his. We give daily NFL takes. So if
We
you
try.
need, we try.
Or wild memes, one of the two.
Both are good. So if you want to see wild memes from Connor, reasonable takes from me on mine, spicy takes sometimes from Ben on his, give us all a follow and we won't disappoint.
We'll
But
try.
until Monday, go Bills.
Go Bills.